Welcome back to the Life Outside podcast, where we share stories from outside to hopefully inspire you to get outside as well. My name is Cam Bostock, and on this week's episode, I chat with Lauren Billings and Scott Dougan. This adventurous couple has spent the better part of the last 5 years exploring the globe and embarking on multi-month-long expeditions, both on bike and foot. From a 10,000 kilometre long bikepacking trip across the continent of Europe, becoming some of the first Australians to thru-hike France's incredible 3,000 kilometre long Hexatrek. Lauren and Scott share stories and advice from epic adventures on this week's episode of the show. We hope you enjoy. What's up, team?
G'day, Cam. How you doing?
Doing very well, guys. Very good to see your faces again. It has been a while. We were just chatting before we hit record. We've met once for maybe, it wasn't even 5 minutes, I think, that we crossed paths in person back in 2021 on the Bibbleman track. That was my first long distance hike. Was it your guys' first as well? Or?
Well, if we can classify the Great Ocean Road or the Great Southwest as a thru-hike in Victoria, then no. But if it's 30 days plus or somewhere like that, then yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So the Bib track was like your first 1,000+ kilometre trail or whatever. Same for me. We crossed paths very briefly at a pub in small town south of Perth and recognized each other because I think we were both posting some stuff on Instagram and
I
think I was both very new to it back then. Oh, yeah. Well, I was posting daily vlogs from the trail. That was the first ever daily vlog series I posted. And it was reaching a few people, which was cool. And obviously Mackenzie and I were walking quite fast as well, which I think, half the people were impressed with and half the people were just disgusted at that we were rushing it and stuff like that. So there was a bit of positivity and negativity surrounding the Bib track and how fast we were going. But it was the most incredible adventure and cool we crossed paths. You guys are based on the east coast of Australia, though, so we haven't met up since then, which we're definitely overdue for.
We do keep in contact online.
Yeah, we do. You guys post about your adventures on YouTube and Insta, which I really love following along, and we'll get into some of the crazy things that you've done over the last few years. Yeah, you guys have just been sending it all across Europe and the world, which is really inspiring. Doing some hikes that are high up on my bucket list, that's for sure. But I'm interested to know how you guys found each other, because I feel like it's kind of rare to couple up with someone who's as crazy as the other person in regards to these multi-month long adventures. Most of the listeners know my wife's not super into the outdoors, definitely not into thru hiking, which is fine. We have that balance and we do share some hobbies as well. And sometimes I meet couples that are just both super into it, but I feel like it's super rare. It's usually one is and then one has to sacrifice and just let them go off into the wild for months at a time. Where did you guys meet, and how did you get into this world of long distance adventure?
We're from the same smallish town in Victoria, and our friends were friends. So we've known each other since we were 16.
Yeah.
16. We weren't together though until we were a bit older. We both moved to Melbourne. And Scott had never hiked or camped. I was a scout as a kid, so I've always been really into it. But Scott hadn't done neither. And then in 2017, we decided to quit our jobs and go and hike through Norway. And Scott had literally never done it before. We just bought all this gear. It wasn't even good gear. But we just went for a 6-month trip through Europe.
Just backpacking.
Without backpacks. And, he's loved it ever since, right?
Yeah. Never slept in a tent. And the one time I did it, I was 14 and it was in Bright and it was 40 degrees and I never, ever wanted to go back to that lifestyle. But then, we're inspired by a couple of people in 2016 that did a backpacking trip. And back then it was all blogs. There was no YouTube videos or anything like that. And I followed their blog religiously every day for 6 months. And then just we made a choice to quit our jobs and kind of follow their footsteps. And we did the same thing as they did. And ever since then, it just changed our lives.
Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of doing this over a long period of time. You just get really good at it, and then you just start attempting crazier and crazier things because it never quite satisfies as much as that first time. What did you do over that 6 months backpacking Norway? Was it just Norway? Did you do a lot of?
It was just Norway for 30 days. So we just flew into Norway, and then we hitchhiked all through Norway. So I think we took 30 different rides, and we just went from Oslo. We only go all the way up to Trondheim, so we didn't even get to the good part, as they would say. And then we just started,
it was all good.
Yeah. Then we just flew off to other countries and did Poland and Austria and Slovenia, Czech Republic, and
we did like 20-something countries.
Yeah, so we did a lot of countries. We moved really quick in that trip.
Yeah.
Compared to Norway.
But Norway was the first like camping, hiking trip.
Yeah.
We went on together.
And they have that freedom of roam rule in Norway. So as long as I think it's within 100 meters from an inhabited house, you can just set your tent up wherever.
Yeah.
So it was really easy to camp. So we just basically hitchhiked from one place to another. Went to Preikestolen, Trolltunga, just all those famous landmarks that are now quite touristy. They were back then, but now they're extreme. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sounds like a cheap trip. You weren't paying for transport or accommodation for the most part. That's the way to go.
Yeah. We still continue that kind of to this day, just with a different mode of transport.
It's crazy the difference. Like if you were to hire a car or take public transport everywhere and then stay at a hotel or even a backpackers every night, it obviously adds up insanely fast. And 6 months in Europe would be a hefty price tag associated with that. But the way you guys did it was, you were able to do it without having to spend too much money, which is definitely the goals. With the hitchhiking, had you guys hitchhiked much before that trip? Because I've only started hitchhiking the last couple of years, and like it's always kind of a bit nerve-wracking to do it in my home country, let alone a foreign country where you may not speak the same language as people. How did that go for you guys? Obviously, were you inspired by the people you were watching blogging to hitchhike? 100%. Was that it?
Yeah,
and you're like, we're just going to go for it.
Yeah, they used a cardboard. They used to go into servos and get a piece of cardboard, cut it out to their size, and just write where they were going. So we kind of upgraded on that. We went to Officeworks and bought a little whiteboard with a permanent marker.
Nice.
So we just always changed it every day and wrote on that. Yeah. And that was pretty much it.
We found if we wrote like we were Australians in the direction we wanted to go, we can pick up some Australians.
So we would write Australians to Trondheim, for example. Yeah. And people would always be looking.
Yeah. They loved it. They're so friendly in Norway. Well, everyone's friendly.
Yeah. It's the same in the US. As soon as they found out like you're from Australia, they're like, we'll drive you, we'll host you, we'll do whatever you want. They seem to just froth Aussies. Yeah. We'll take that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was very easy. We only rated 15 minutes probably on average for a ride every time. If you situate yourself in the correct position, it's quite easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely an art form, isn't it? Hitchhiking, standing in the right spot, not being in too big of a group. Yeah, 100%. That's super cool. So you guys were hooked after that trip, hey? You were just like, this is what we want to do as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, well, we tried to come back when we finished our trip, when we ran out of money, and get into like a normal lifestyle, but it didn't work out too well for a while. So we still got that travel bug, you could call it, to this day.
It seems like you guys fell in love with Europe as well, because we're going to get into some of your huge adventures, and they're all in Europe. You just keep going back.
They are actually.
What was it about that first trip that was like, we just want to keep coming back here?
I just fell in love with Europe, didn't we?
Well, actually, when we got back, our next goal was actually to hike the Appalachian Trail. Oh, yes. So that's what we started in 2020. But then we came back because of lockdowns. But so we were going to go to another continent.
So we did 7 days on the AT in 2020. So
I didn't know that.
On the sea border, and then we had to fly back home, which is unfortunate.
Wow.
But,
we learned so much in that 7 days. So like that's pretty much when our gear changed completely. Like we were 18 kilos or something. Yeah. We were on the Appalachian Trail.
Whoa.
And by the time we were on the bib, that's when we were completely ultralight. Yeah. And so it changed a lot.
Did you just see everyone else that was through hiking and you were like, why am I carrying all this stuff?
You realise you have to carry it every day. And so it was 7 days and we're like, wow.
Right.
This is really
50% had ultralight, 50%
that's true.
What we had. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was very similar on the PCT as well. There's the seasoned pros that have a very low base weight, and then people that were just out there for the first time and figure it out along the way. That would have been pretty disappointing though, right? A week into the AT, you would have been so hyped. You were forced home.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, everybody has their stories, though, don't they? For 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the Dan who I hiked the PCT with, another Aussie, he was going to do the PCT in 2020 also, and had everything ready, had permits and everything. Like he didn't actually end up flying because it was kind of like good timing in a way where he didn't even have 7 days over there. But
It
got
doesn't feel like
cancelled.
the time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Are you guys going to go back? I feel like you've got to go back.
There will be, but I'm not sure when it'll be. There's so many different things that, we're kind of evolved with what we like and things like that. More to bike touring now, more than hiking.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to just swap positions in a way, haven't they?
Yeah.
A little
bit. You're Eurobatic, so you don't want to betray your favorite continent.
Yeah.
Well, we did go to Asia as well last year, so we did experience continent.
You guys do a lot, to be fair. I'd love to chat a bit about your bike tour across Europe, your big bike tour. That was a huge mission. You guys were like vlogging it on YouTube and stuff, which I've seen quite a lot of. And
we haven't finished that. They're still coming out.
Still posting, yeah. Did you vlog the Hexatrek, by the way? We're going to talk about the Hexatrek later. Did you vlog that as well, and you trying to catch up, or?
Nah, that was a full ultralight experience, that one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no gear.
You kind of carry whatever you want on a bicycle, so it was easy to gear and things like that.
That makes sense. So where did you ride from and ride to, and how far and how long did it take?
So we started in Greece, in Athens, and we cycled to the west coast of Ireland.
So we started March 2023.
Yeah, and it took us 200 days we were cycling for. And it was not in a straight line. Like when you say Greece to Ireland, it kind of seems like you could go in a straight line, but no, we did some loops. We hung out in Scotland for a while, it wasn't in a straight line, but we did cycle from one side to the other. So
it was like Greece into Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Italy, Austria, Switzerland, France, Germany, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland. That was it.
Wow.
Good one.
So what did
10,000
just show.
Insane. Yeah. So what inspired that trip? Because I feel like you had done a lot of hiking up until that point, and then you decided to just cycle across the continent.
Well, I think it was in 2022, we moved to Tasmania from Victoria. So we got really into triathlon and cycling and running and things like that. And then I think I might have stumbled across a YouTube video or something like that of these people cycling with their gear on their bike. And think, man, that's cool as.
Yeah, it's a little bit faster than walking.
Yeah, it's quicker than walking, but it's not as fast as a car. So it's a really healthy balance.
Yeah.
Let's just go to one point of Southern Europe and go to the furthest point away, I suppose.
It's kind of like Eastern Europe. Yeah, the point was like east to west.
Yeah.
Did you have a plan like of what your route would be at the start, or was it kind of just like, let's start and see what happens?
We knew we were trying to get to Ireland, and there was a few places we wanted to see. Like if we came into a major city like Innsbruck or things like that we wanted to see, then we would get an Airbnb for 5 or 6 days and just like park the bikes. We wouldn't be touring and just look around the city. So there was a few places along the way we wanted to actually see. Otherwise, we didn't, even day to day, Scott was in charge of the map and he'd just take us to the next place we were going.
I had a route plan, so I kind of joined a lot of routes and cycling trails throughout Europe to get to one point, because we wanted to go to Norway, to the top of Norway at the start, but because of our Schengen visa, we only have a specific amount of time, and it just wasn't enough time to get all the way there. So we had to make sure that when we left Greece, by the time we got on that boat from France to England, that we had used up the correct amount of days, and then basically it was irrelevant over in the UK.
Yeah.
So that's
there was a lot of like calculating how many days we can spend in each day in each country, and then 2 weeks before we left, Croatia actually joined the EU. Yeah. So then like all those plans were out the window and start again.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
What were the highlights of the ride? Obviously, 200 days on the bikes. You would have seen so many incredible things, met so many incredible people. Obviously, you went through, so many countries as well. To the cultures, the languages, the currencies, like everything's just changing all the time.
Yeah.
What were some of the highlights?
Well, that's what makes it so exciting. Going from a new country, once a week or every 2 weeks, it just gives you a new purpose, I suppose, on the tour. But the highlights, I really love Bosnia. I thought that was fantastic. The scenery there is just unreal, and the people's been really good, and the food's cheap and tasty. But probably the Dolomites were at the top of the list, I think.
The Dolomites, and then we cycled the NC500 in Scotland.
Yeah.
In summertime, and we got, I think it was like 17 days where we didn't put a rain jacket on, so we got it in perfect weather. It was
no
amazing.
way.
So
that feels pretty rare to have that much good weather right up there.
Yeah, so the Scottish Highlands were unreal as well.
And we did the coastal part of France, which we didn't walk this time on the Hexatrek. And so that was really nice to see from a bike too. Like it was very steep riding, but it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
every place is so diverse and different. It's just hard to nail it, but scenery-wise, Northern Italy for me.
Oh yeah, Dolomites. Wow.
It's crazy because you could do a loop of Australia and you could ride more than 10,000 kilometers very easily. And, it's just one country and there'd be some diversity, but not as far as culture and language and people. Yeah. It's very, very linear. And then Europe's it's just a whole new world over there, isn't there? So many countries just jammed together. Like I told you guys just before the call that I'm heading to Europe for the first time in a couple of months. And I just can't wait to see. Yeah, first time. Yeah, I've never been. And so my wife and I are going to try and jam pack as much as we can in over a 2 or 3 month period. But just so excited to hop between countries on a train in a couple hours. Like you can just go to different places and see different things, and it's going to be good.
We'll have the best time. We love that continent.
Yeah.
No, the other thing was that each country is different laws. Like, can you camp outside or can you go up to the campground prices and things like that, they changed so much. So, every day was a small adventure on its own.
So were you mostly camping along the route? Obviously, you weren't
always camping
for a hotel or backpackers pretty often.
Yeah, always camping, I reckon 85% of the time maybe, but at campgrounds. Wild camping was pretty difficult sometimes. And so we just kept it to campgrounds because they're quite cheap. I think most places were €8 to €14, if that. So it wasn't too hefty on the wallet.
Yeah.
Did you meet any other bikepackers? Because that's the difference between bikepacking and sort of through hiking a trail is everyone's kind of doing slightly different routes and there's no set path, but there's lots of people doing it, right? Like there's heaps of people bikepacking across Europe. Did you meet people? Did you ride with people?
So we met a few people going in the opposite direction to us. There's a really popular, it's not a route, but journey that's from France to Singapore. And so they have to get it to a certain part in Kyrgyzstan. They have to cross a very high road at a certain time. So at the beginning of our journey, we saw a lot of those people heading down into Singapore. But it was kind of they're on the other side of the road, and you kind of want to stop, hi, will they stop it? Oh, they did. So we got to chat, but it's just on the side of the road, and then they're off again. And then otherwise, we only met two other couples, and we're both still very much in contact with them. We call one of them our Slovenian grandparents, and so they're an older couple that were cycling around Bosnia. We met them, and we ended up staying at their house in Slovenia, which was amazing. And then the other people we met in Bosnia as well, and they're from England, so we've got to go stay with them for a week as well.
Still pen pals still today.
Yeah, we are actually.
You guys would have so many pen pals and mates all over Europe, I'm sure, from all these trips. And that's the beauty of traveling as well, isn't it? You just get to meet people and connect with people you just never would otherwise.
No, that's right.
It is much harder on a bike though. The Hexatrek is most of them aren't walking the Hexatrek because it's not that well known, but they're at least walking apart. That you're walking the same direction, so you can chat to them.
It was much easier meeting people in Eastern Europe and places where bikes aren't that common. So once you got to France and Germany, places like that, everyone's on bikes. So you don't know who's a long distance tourer. You don't know who's just going to the supermarket. Everyone kind of blends in, so you don't really speak to anyone, which is a shame. But in those countries where bikes aren't as popular.
Yeah, in the Eastern European countries, if people were stopped at a red light, they'd wind down their window to try and talk to us.
Yeah,
we couldn't understand. Oh, sorry, I don't understand. But they were very interested in what are you doing here?
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Yeah.
I've done one bikepacking trip on the Munda Biddy Trail in West Oz. It's a trail the whole way, so it's not really a very similar thing to what you did, but it was incredible. But I don't have that much experience bikepacking. What would you say were some of the biggest challenges doing a trip like this? Were you doing massive days on the bike, or was it pretty casual throughout?
So some days we do 100 Ks, but most of the time I think we did 60 to 70. We took it super slow. If we knew rain was coming for a few days, we'd maybe cycle 30 kilometres and just hunker down or something like that. We just move at our own pace. There's nothing too difficult about bike touring, in my opinion. You can make it as hard as you want, but if you just, train up for it, listen to your body, take it slow, it's all pretty.
So we'd never biked to it at all. Like we'd never had bags on a bike. We'd never even ridden a gravel bike because we have road bikes in Tasmania.
Yeah.
And so when we landed in Athens, it was literally day one of this.
Yeah.
And you just learned as you went.
You saw the first week.
Yeah.
Like especially our necks, like that position to lean over and look up.
Yeah.
And we also had to learn to look over our left shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in Australia, you always look over.
Right.
So now we're really good at looking over both. But there's just small things like that. But I don't know if there's many other challenges. Like getting water in the Eastern European countries, we always had to make sure that we could ride and there was water to get because you couldn't drink it. We had filters. There was nowhere even to fill like water up to filter.
Yeah, right.
So it was really just water when we were over there.
It's basically the luxury version of hiking because you're always going through towns. It's easier to resupply. Like 5 kilometres hiking might take you an hour and a half. 5 kilometres on a bike will take you 10 minutes. And you go whatever direction you want to. Hiking, you're limited. Yeah. So, it's a bit easier than through hiking.
Yeah, it's a cool way to travel just because of that flexibility and the ability to go a lot further and a lot faster. But, obviously hiking just takes you to places that a bike never could, which is why it's so awesome. Did you have any mechanical issues? Because, like, when I did the Mundabidi, I literally got my first bike ever since I was a kid, like a month before I did the Mundabidi, learned what it was and how to use it. And then I had like a few mechanical issues on the trek and it's kind of screwed me around. And thank God I was riding with my mate Lauren, who knew a bit more about bikes than I did. But I can imagine if you're like in some country where no one speaks English and something catastrophic goes wrong, and you don't know how to fix it on the spot. Like, that ever happen?
Well, we didn't have so many punctures. Probably the worst place for it to happen, I think it was our first puncture on a really busy road with no shoulder. And so that was probably the worst part, like, for it to happen timing wise. Yeah. But we managed to get them pumped up. We were riding tubeless, like our tires were tubeless. And so they were quite easy to get going to like fix it later. But we did have a major mechanical. The bikes that we ride is a Canyon Grizzle, and they had like a recall on the bike. There's something like internal that actually snaps after a while.
The crank.
Yeah, the crank snapped in my bike when we were in Austria. And so it is covered by Canyon, but like we were on our bike, we needed it done right that moment. And anyway, we managed to take it into a dealer. They are from Germany, so that was the brand itself. And we had to take, I think it was like 6 days off when we were in Austria. But we're in Australia. Was it in the capital?
Yeah.
It
was in Salzburg. Yeah.
And so we're in this beautiful country. So I was okay to have 6 days off while my bike got fixed. So that was fine. Yeah. Otherwise, it was just, we never broke a chain or anything like that. And we only had like 6 or 7 punctures. It wasn't that.
We had some problems with our, what could you call it? What we put bags on?
Panniers.
Yeah, panniers.
Oh, yeah,
right.
I
got hit by a car in Italy.
Oh, yeah.
At a crossing. And he hit my panniers when he didn't stop or anything. But I think it snapped my rack.
Frame.
That's my frame of rack. But the people, we run a tail fin setup. I'm not sure if anyone's going to know what that is, but best customer service ever.
So good.
I emailed them, and one day later they sent out a rack from Bristol in the UK to Italy within 24 hours.
Yeah. So we had a new rack. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the fault of the gear. It was someone hitting you with their bloody car.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, at least that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, my car never even stopped, by the way. Just for
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Not to worry.
That's the cyclist's worst nightmare, isn't it? Is bloody
Yeah.
traffic. Because you were riding a lot of roads. There would have been trucks and cars and people just caring about you at all.
Yeah.
This was at a pedestrian crossing.
It was, yeah. But the roads in Europe, super busy down in Eastern Europe. They're not built to have cyclists on them, and there was no shoulder. But they're so good at driving with bikes. It's like Australia's not so good. But yeah, Eastern Europeans were amazing. Like they'd put themselves in danger before they were getting too close to you. So they were really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't have too many close calls.
No safety issues really at all.
When we look back at the footage though, like especially we pop the GoPro on Scott's back, like on chest strap it backwards, and so that he's looking at me, and so you can see the traffic coming past me and watching it back. You're like, oh my God, it's so scary. Yeah. But in the moment, it was fun.
when you can't see behind you, you don't know how close the truck gets to you.
Yeah, jeez, yeah, that's terrifying.
It is risky,
like when I did my bikepacking trip, it was all trail, so zero traffic issues. I just the way Perth drivers deal with cyclists, I would never want to be a cyclist here. And riding across the continent would just be. It sounds like it wasn't too bad, which is good.
Scott actually fell off his bike as well. It was on a pedestrian. It was on a bike path. He managed to fall off his bike. Always wear your helmet because he smashed his head straight on the ground. So, helmet safety.
Yeah. Pro tip.
That's pro tip. As much as Europeans hate it.
We always wear that.
What was the finish of that ride like? Were you guys ready to be done after 200 days on the bike, or do you reckon you could have just rode forever? Because it's interesting. It could go either way, can't it? Or sometimes it's just 50-50.
Yeah, rode forever. We talked about it a lot at the end because we ended in like west of Ireland in October, was it?
Yeah.
And it literally rained on us every single day, and it was so cold. And then you're generating your own wind as well, so we were freezing. And so we were so done with the tour because of that. But we kept saying to each other, if we could fly our bikes like back to France or wherever it's still sunny, we would have kept going like forever. Yeah. But Ireland really drove us mad.
Yeah.
And the other thing is there wasn't really a finish line. It's like when you walk the PCT and the Hexatrek and whatnot, there is a finish line. Like that whole 6 months walking towards finish line. But this was just like when we were like, there's a long part of west coast of Ireland, so where did we decide to stop?
Yeah.
But we stopped in Donegal. That was the end. Yeah.
We achieved the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. I'm guessing you have more bikepacking trips planned then.
Yeah, we want to we want to ride Norway. Yeah. We haven't got to the top. We haven't passed Trondheim yet.
Yeah.
And Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, last year we cycled around Taiwan, which was amazing. And they were really made for cycling. And so that's how Japan's been kind of spoken to us, like that it's the same. And so that'll be really cool to go.
Incredible. I want to talk about the Hexatrek. I'm a hiker. And this is one of the trails that it's been high on my bucket list for a long time. I feel like it probably only came on my radar the last few years, but since I've found out about it, it sounds so epic. For those who aren't aware of the Hexatrek, which is probably a lot of our listeners, it's not one of the most famous thru hikes in the world. It's nothing like the Triple Crown of the US, where kind of everyone knows about it if you're in that space. What is the Hexatrek? Where is it? How long is it to and from?
So it's 3,000 kilometers. It starts at the top right-hand corner of France and Germany on the border in a little town called Wissembourg. That's how you pronounce it. And it goes pretty much directly south on the border of Germany still, slightly into Switzerland, and then keeps following south towards Spain and Andorra before you pull west and head straight to the ocean. So it's kind of like a backwards...
The perimeter of France.
Yeah. It takes probably between 4 and 6 months. So it's pretty much the same length as the AT.
Well, it has the same elevation as the PCT, but it's 3,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
And it was
very
only
mountainous,
it was completed in 2021, so that's why you've only heard about it the last few years. So we walked it in its third year. There's only been 1,000 finishes. And
it goes through 14 national parks, I think, like that. So all through the French Alps, through the Pyrenees, and the Northern Vosges, which is the first part of stage 1, which is basically like a forest of the AT. They call it the Green Tunnel of France. Yeah.
It's just castles. It's like where the border of Germany and France are, which means that it was well fought in the war. And so there's lots of castles that keep pushing the perimeters back. But everywhere you walk, so it's castles and castles.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Wow. I think that one of the biggest reasons I'm interested in it is because I just love the idea of hiking across the country. And so 3,000 kilometers covering the length of France and kind of not even in a straight line. It's like following the border and then back across to the ocean is just such a cool idea. Like I've walked the length of New Zealand. I've walked the length of the US. It seems very logical that my next hike would be something in a new continent. It makes way too much sense. And it just... The trail just sounds incredible. Like so many mountains, which I love. Obviously, a lot of vert, like you said, it has similar vert numbers to the PCT, but it's like, a third shorter, which probably makes it quite obvious how hilly it is.
Yeah.
But I imagine it's incredibly beautiful. What where did you guys hear about it? I'm sure you probably heard about it on all your other travels through Europe in certain parts. Why the Hexatrek, and what was it like sort of heading over?
Well, we never heard of it, but we were halfway through our cycle trip. We were in Switzerland, and there was this girl on Instagram that we follow called Lauren. You probably know who she is, Lauren Warwick, her last name is.
Lauren Warwick, yeah.
Anyway, she was doing the Hexatrek, and we're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" She's like, "I'm doing a Hexatrek." I'm like, "What is this?" So then that day we researched and looked into it, and I think a week later we
because we almost intersected her. I think that's why we our Instagrams managed to see each other. I don't know how it happened, but yeah. And when you do talk to a lot of people on the Hexatrek, most people have come from Lauren. She was like the first person that kind of vlogged the experience.
Yeah,
because that's why everyone's hear about the Hexatrek. Yeah, we managed to always be through Lauren.
And we're still keen on doing another adventure, and we thought that was perfect. And we loved France when we were there on the bike, so it's that, like you, it made too much sense.
We were going to go back to America and do one of those trails. We couldn't decide, AT, PCT.
Yeah.
There's so many people that walk it, which would have been amazing. We were like, why don't we do something that not everybody does?
Yeah. I think there was only 450 hikers on the Hexatrek. There's a lot more day hikers and stuff.
I think there was 700 people that started last year and 450 finished. Yeah. So it's a lot different numbers than the PCT.
So I think the idea of less people really push us towards France rather than going back to America to do the long trails there. And it was cheaper to do France as well.
Yeah, the Euro. But in saying that, it's one of the biggest downfalls of the Hexatrek is that there isn't that many people. And there's not that many people on trail that actually know about the Hexatrek. It's like, oh, why are you here? And
there's no trail
community.
There's no trail.
And then even if they are doing the Hexatrek, they're most likely speaking French. There's like 58% of the hikers are French speaking. And they're all very, very friendly, but not many of them can speak conversational English.
We can't speak conversational French.
No, we can ask for better.
So it wasn't a super social trail for you guys?
We definitely met some really good people that we spent weeks on end with.
Yeah, a French guy who doesn't speak conversational English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, it's nothing like the experience you get in the States, for sure.
We could imagine.
It's a more isolated thru-hike. For now.
But also, there's so many more people that know about it. It's like when I come back and told somebody that had walked the PCT that I don't, and she said, "Oh, my friends have been talking about the Hexatrek. I didn't know that we had walked it." And so I reckon it's just going to exponentially get bigger and bigger. It's like everyone's walked the Triple Crown now. What are they going to do next?
Yeah,
gotta go to Europe.
And I think there aren't many European trails that long. That might be one of the longest continuous trails in Europe, right?
Yeah. So the Hexatrek's actually made up of what they call
GRs.
GR, which is in French is like Grand
Randonnée, I think.
Grand Randonnée.
Big hike.
And so the person who created the Hexatrek really just connected them so that it could be a full one way. And he's been in chats. So you pass through, wrote it down, it's a lot of them, 20 states of France. And so he has to get permission to put his sign into their state. So even the Hexatrek sign, it's few and far between. We probably saw maybe 20 or 30 the whole time we were there.
Yeah.
So it's not signposted, so people don't talk about it. But when you do run into people, they're more than likely walking one of the GRs. And so they're 1,500 kilometers in length anyway.
Yeah.
Two of them are that long.
Yeah.
And so, but they're like, Hexatrek, who can do this? And then they're most likely well, we probably just don't understand them because they're English speaking.
So wait, one guy created the Hexatrek. Is it not a French government thing or?
No, there's three or two people. Kevin and William are their names. Yeah. So they've just pieced all these trails, the GRs, together. So they form one.
They did that in 2020, and so it was it was born in 2021, and so then since then that's when people have been catching on, and so they made an app, and it's
like Guthooks.
Yeah, but not very good. And it's because they don't have enough funding. And so it's you pay for their app just so that they have a little bit more money for each year. It gets better and better. And so the year before us, when you clicked on something like a water source, it didn't tell you how far away it was. But the year we did, at least it told you that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't super rely on the app yet.
I like the idea of that, to be honest, because Far Out, or Gut Hook, as it used to be called, is it feels like a cheat code through hiking these days. Like you hear a lot about the history of the PCT. When I was over there, we met people who hiked it 20, 30 years prior, and the difference in gear technology, but also just technology and GPS mapping and all these things. It's just a different world.
No, it's amazing that they did it. Good on them. 20, 30 years ago.
It's so impressive, and it makes you want to just like hike old school on some through hike and not use Far Out. But it sounds like Hexatrek, it's not going to be exactly like that. Obviously you've got modern gear and stuff, but the navigation isn't quite as easy as some of the more well-known through hikes.
It's really well signposted, and the app,
if you know what you have,
is good for directions. It's just water sources and things like
that. And you can't make comments like you can on Far Out. And so I think that's the thing that they're putting in for this year, because you walk to a water source for a few hours and then you get there and it's not there. So.
Yeah, it's so good, the community aspect of Far Out. There's so many pinpoints for lookouts, but then water sources and campsites and just all these necessities, and then up to date comments of people who've just walked through. Like having that,
that's the best.
Definitely take it for granted, because most of the throughs I've done have had really good sort of Far Out communities on them.
They do have a community. It's on Discord. So that's really how you could find out what was going to happen in the next stage of your hike.
And everyone's just writing in French on there, and you're just like, I don't know what you're saying.
French and English, But you do a lot of translating, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of screenshotting, a lot of translating.
Did you meet any other Aussies on the Hexatrek?
No. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. No, we knew that there was two in front of us. We never got them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That's cool. Well done. You guys are probably in the first handful of Aussies to ever walk the trail. That's pretty badass.
We're hoping to be the first, but I messaged the owners, and I think it's the 10th or something like that.
Still freaking cool.
Yeah.
Walk me through the trail. So it starts in the northeast corner of France on the border with Germany.
So they call that the Vosges.
Yeah, so the Hexatrek's broken up into 6 stages. Apparently, is France called the hexagon or something like this?
Yeah, the shape, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what they're known, and then hex is 6, and so they've made it into 6 stages. So stage 1 is the Vosges,
which is all forest and bush, basically.
The Jura and the Doubs, and so they're 2 major rivers that run in that stage as well. So you walk like 3 kind of state parks in stage 1. And we knew a couple that, we didn't know them, we met them on Instagram, but we knew a couple that walked the year before. And so we were like, can you tell us which stage you think is the easiest, which stage you think is the hardest, that kind of thing. And they said stage 1 they thought was the easiest. And so we went into it, it's like, it's not even going to be hilly. It was so hilly.
Warm up.
Yes. It was just that there was no flat wet land. So they were like, what is all the other stages going to be like if they think this is the easiest?
Wow.
What do you think? Do you reckon it was the easiest? Maybe the second easiest.
Probably.
Yeah.
But then it goes into the Alps, so into the southern Alps, and then into the northern French Alps, and then it goes basically into a desert like the PCT in one section down the south of France, where it's very dry.
And you walk in like peak summertime as well, so the water was so hard to come by.
A bit scarce.
Yeah, and it was 1 billion degrees, and there was a lot of people because everybody goes on holidays in southern France. And it's not really a hiking area, but the people who created it had to join like the long GR from that to the bottom. And so they're just putting you in this hiking area that's not totally hiking. There was one national park there though, the Cevennes. That was really nice. Yeah. But the rest of it was just boiling and hard to find water.
And then you're pretty much into the Pyrenees.
Yeah.
Into the Pyrenees, yeah. So I think the last 2 stages are the Pyrenees, right? The east and the west.
You're pretty much in the mountains the whole time except for stage 1.
Yeah, and stage 1 in the Jura and the Vosges, you come into a town, I think, every day. Like you walk through the forest, and then you come into a town where you can get baked goods, and then you go back into the forest and camp the night. So it's perfect.
Yeah, resupply is very easy.
Yeah, really easy.
At the start. But even during the mountains, it's easy as well. You get lots of places like fromageries. So you just get cheese and saucisson, which is salami. So if you're a meat eater,
sounds so good.
And then you come across bakeries all the time, so it's the easiest lunch you'll ever have.
Yes.
So it's incredibly diverse, it sounds like. Obviously, there's a lot of mountainous regions, but you've got, sounds like really beautiful forest. You've got desert, which I just, in my mind, didn't even think was a thing there.
It's more like they're gorgeous, not desert, but they're just, really, really dry.
Just dry.
It's very exposed and hot and dry.
But yes, very diverse.
Yeah.
Very diverse.
That's why we like France so much, actually, when we rode through it when we were on our bikes. We're like, how is this country so diverse? Like, they spot literally everything. Like, one side of their country is on the water, so they have ocean, and they have the Alps on the other side. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country.
It's incredible, yeah. Yeah, we're probably going to spend some time in France when we're over in Europe. We're going to start the Camino de Santiago Francis in southern France, and then we were thinking of doing a great walk in France, actually, GR54, which I'm guessing you guys did
that's
on the Hexatrek.
Isn't 54 in the north?
54 is south, isn't it?
No.
I think it is further south, yeah. I haven't looked in too much. I just got recommended it. But I almost don't want to hike it because if I do walk the Hexatrek, I'm going to walk it again. So
yeah, I reckon you should still do it. Like, we didn't, to be honest, 100% strictly follow the Hexatrek. No. Like, sometimes we just peeled off onto another GR and just went on that for a few days and then joined back up to the Hexatrek. There is no right and wrong. You just kind of.
And every year the Hexatrek actually moves, like, it shifts.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose the PCT and the AT do that too.
So with their regulations, with the forest and things like that, they have to move around certain parts. So.
Yeah. We did actually have one of the hardest years for wet weather-wise. So as we were coming into the Alps, we had the deepest snow or highest snowfall in the winter. And so by the time that we'd come in, they hadn't melted yet. So you had to go in with snowshoes. And being from Australia,
snowshoed,
and axes,
and you had to have ice picks. Being from Australia, and I think we've only seen the snow once or twice. We decided to flip flop, so we didn't actually do the stages 1 through 6. And it's one of the biggest conversations on the Hexatrek is which order should you walk it in, because 1 through 6 is not the best way to do it. But everybody wants to do it in a continuous footpath, which completely, like, to us, we thought we were 100% doing 1 to 6. I didn't want to shift, didn't want to flip flop, but it's not the right way to do it if you want to get the right weather windows for each stage, because they're so different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what is the best? Like, what is the best way?
That's the conversation.
Well, it depends on the snowfall, because the year before it wasn't as bad. So we just had an unlucky year. So the time we done stage 1 and then got to the Alps, it was too high.
And then they had really high rainfall in stage 3, which is, I actually think that's where GR4. And there was landslides, and so like towns were evacuated. Part of the trail was closed for a good chunk. And so the weather plays a really, really big part because of the mountains. But I'm sure it's the same with PCT.
Yeah,
it is the same with the PCT. Like, if you start too early and it's a high snow year, then a lot of people every year flip-flop and they skip the Sierra and they go up further north and then they come back down at a later date. That even happened last year when I was on trail, even though it was a fairly low to average snow year. But in my head, I'm just like, a continuous footpath is like the only way I'd want to hike one of these trails.
Yeah, exactly.
It took me a while to be convinced.
Yeah, I know, it did. People actually created it. They recommend walking at 6 through 1, so 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which means you end at the start, like where we started, is a letterbox that's literally on, like, in someone's vineyard. Okay, we've got to find it.
The best way to definitely do it is just play it by the weather conditions, but flip-flop it. There you go. And this is what you finish at.
So if you walked it backwards and you just finish it like this letterbox.
That's all it is.
For those watching the video, that's a great photo. That's it's almost anticlimactic, but that's actually really cool.
But if you walk it 1 through 6, then you get to end at the ocean. Like, it sounds,
because you don't see ocean for 5 months.
Yeah. So if you were to do 6 through 1, you'd start a completely different time, right? Or
no, he wants to start at the same time. It's just because the Pyrenees are actually much lower than the Alps, and so their snow melts faster.
Yeah.
And so they do recommend that you have to come in fit, is because you're straight into the Pyrenees. It's really, really difficult hiking. It was the hardest hiking we were there.
Yeah.
So you have to come in. Whereas stage 1, you have some time. Maybe it's up and down, but it's not technical or anything.
Yeah.
How was your guys' fitness coming in at the beginning? Did you feel pretty comfortable? Were you pushing pretty hard, or did you have to ease into it a bit?
No, it was pretty good. We started off pretty much just doing 20 Ks off the bat and then increased from there. Just because we came from cycling, we kind of built up that bottom half stamina in our body. So that helped. But it was pretty much straight into it. We had no injuries, no niggles or anything. So we just walked slow and just 20 Ks for the first week and just increased from there.
How long was between the bikepacking trip and the Hexatrek?
That was a while, actually. Probably 6 months. 5 months.
We went to Asia for 6 months before we started, and then we got back from Bali and then we went to Asia. But when we were in Asia, we were like running and we cycled Taiwan. We weren't inactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We had a couple of weeks at home. And we went.
What's the high point of the trail? What's the highest mountain or pass that you go over?
I think it's Cheval Blanc. I think it's 2,000.
No, 3.
Oh, 3,000. Might be close to 3. On 3.
Yeah, I think it's just over 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's 6 times where you can go over 3, and they're all on the Hexatrek app. They're like, you don't have to do. They're like, if the weather is okay, then you can go do this.
Something that you'd be quite fond on, right?
You'd be super fun.
I was going to say I'm a bit of a side trip addict, and so I'd imagine I feel like there'd be a lot of side trip opportunities. Like, could you just pop over to Switzerland and hike through there for a month and then come back? And
you do actually go through Switzerland on the trip. Yeah. But you only see Italy, so I suppose you could side trip and go into Italy for a little while.
Yeah. There are a lot of big peaks that are very technical in the Pyrenees that you can do on the side.
Yeah, right.
We went
to technical as in you need gear like rope and harness, or
it does actually say on the app if that isn't right. Yeah, but
some places,
some of them. The Pyrenees is an interesting one because this is where the Hexatrek is like not only one route, but it's 3, and so you either walk on the Spanish side, which is a GR, the French side, which is a GR, or you walk directly on top of the Pyrenees itself.
Whoa.
That's called the High Pyrenees, which is very exposed.
Like the entire time you're up like 2,000-3,000 meters, like the whole time you're just opening up the top, which apparently is somewhat of an easier option because you never come down. Whereas we were walking on the French GR, and so every day we're coming all the way down and coming all the way back up. Whereas the people we knew were on the HRP, their only worry was there's no markers. So they were up on the top, but there was no markers. You could look at your phone and see which way you're going.
Yeah, right. I talked to a lady named Jen Gaskell last week, and she'll be the episode of the podcast that went up the week before this one, and she walked recently the Great Himalayan Trail, and she was talking a bit about how a good chunk of it there's a high route and then there's a low route, and the high route is just like obviously way more hectic, technical, and there's like 6,000 meter pass on the high route and all this kind of stuff. But she was like determined that she was going to do the high route, and so many things kind of went wrong, and when she made it through, it was pretty epic. But so what made you guys choose the GR route?
Well, it's just safer, really.
Well, the other thing is because we're saying we're in such a bad year for weather. They're having really early snow. So not only did we have late snow, we also had early snow. So it was only a really small window of summer for French. And so, it got cold really fast and the snow came thick and fast.
Just people we knew were getting caught up there in snow.
Whiteout conditions.
And we just didn't, it was towards the end of the trip. We just didn't want to risk anything.
Yeah.
So we just took the safe option and just...
It was awesome too, going into like these mountain villages and coming back out.
Yeah, they're both beautiful in their own way.
Yeah.
If you're feeling adventurous and you're like, probably the best views you'll get will be on that high Pyrenees route. But if you just want to go on a safe option, definitely the GR in France would be the way to go.
Yeah, which is still awesome.
Would you say there was a lot of like super dangerous bits where like you were like, this is pretty sketchy? In
our opinion, yeah. There was a part in the Les Écrans, is what it's called.
Is that the GR that he's going to walk? That's 53.
No. It was so bad because they had so much rain there throughout the months prior to it. It just turned into clay.
Yeah.
And it was so steep, and you just couldn't grip anything with your boots.
Right.
And it was just a sheer drop, and it was the most sketchiest and scary.
Well, we saw some things you were doing, Cam, and so you probably were just like wandering around like it was a footpath. We were like, oh my god, I'm going to fall down.
One slip and you were gone. And I just
that sounds hectic.
Horrid.
Yeah.
It was. Everyone got through it, but I would never do that again.
Wow.
But also some of our best photos we took, like the views were amazing in that park.
Yeah.
It's apparently one of their most famous GR routes. It's only a 10-day route, and it was incredible. But just the condition of the track when we were on it was like, oh my gosh,
it's deteriorating quite quickly.
Yeah, like as you were walking, it was kind of like crumbling under your feet.
Yeah. I mean, you guys would know as well as anyone how potentially dangerous it can be through hiking, especially through hiking in big mountainous regions. I mean, people unfortunately get in trouble all the time. Some people die all the time out in mountainous regions. Were you guys taking like obviously taking precautions and rerouting where necessary and doing all the good things?
Yeah. So we got off that trail for 3 days and joined another trail.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was too risky for us. Like everyone else continued to do it, but not to be too melodramatic.
Well, we always know people in front of us and people behind you. You know, like the few people a few days ahead. And so they said that there was one other pass that was worse than the one we were complaining about. And so like, no, I really don't want to do it. We found that way around.
That's one of the big benefits of hiking a trail as busy as like the PCT, for example, is there's people everywhere. And you always just have up-to-date conditions and things get passed down the trail. Like there was multiple like norovirus outbreaks on the PCT where everyone was getting sick and just passing it to each other. But because it was happening and there's so many people and people are suffering from it, you kind of like hear about it before you get to that area and you can take steps to avoid it. And so we never had any issues because everyone just kind of talks. But there's also a downside to that where people like rumors start and like things that aren't real, or like people exaggerate things that are damaging. Like there was one river crossing on the PCT that a bridge had washed away that you used to be able to cross over the river like the year prior to when I was on trail, and everyone was just like going crazy about how this river crossing was impossible and there's just no way anyone could ever cross it and you're going to die if you try and all this kind of stuff. And so there was this hectic off-trail reroute that people were doing to get around the river, and the PCT Association were telling people not to do that because it was like an environmental impact concern. And so then this other reroute came about, which was like adding 100 kilometers or 150 kilometers to do this crazy reroute around the river. And I was like, I'm just going to go check it out. And there was like a ranger station nearby, and I talked to the ranger, and he's like, "Yeah, it's fine. I crossed it this morning." And so I just went down, and it was like it was one of the more hectic crossings I had on trail, but it wasn't that crazy. But like everyone had just talked so much about it and just passed through a lot of people to the point where it was like
more and more extravagant.
You're going to die if you get there, and it was like it just wasn't. That wasn't the reality at all.
So, pretty much unavoidable.
There's pros and cons to busy trails.
Like there was like a lot of people talking and making rumors and whatnot on PCT. This was like we knew 2 people.
It's definitely a different vibe, that's for sure. What was the longest stint between resupplies? You said you were going, through towns pretty often in stage 1, and there was bakeries and opportunities to resupply pretty often throughout.
Yeah, that's what we were given. I don't know how we managed to get that document. We were given a document really early on that actually has like, this is the supermarket, this is how many kilometers until the next supermarket. So that one was really good. Cool. But I think the longest was only like 80 or 90 kilometers.
No, it would have been a bit more than that. I think it would have been a bit over 5 to 7 days, I think.
Oh, yeah. That's very different.
Because they used to have a supermarket in between these sections,
but
then they closed that supermarket, so then the section got longer, so it ended up being 150 k's.
And when there are lots of people got caught out with that, they thinking the supermarket was open, and so they were like hitchhiking to the next town because they were literally out of food. That was right.
But it's you go through towns too much. It's not completely wild.
Yeah.
So
do you walk through the towns a lot, or is it like you had to hitchhike off?
You never have to hitchhike ever.
No. Yeah.
Just walk through towns, or you walk 1.5 kilometres off the trail, and that's it.
If you were doing the HIP, like the High Pyrenees route, then you have to.
Yeah.
You have to go to like trailheads to get back down the mountain.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no, we didn't. We did hitchhike a few times to go, well, just because like we've got an Airbnb too far away or something.
But no, resupplying, that's all pretty easy. So is water. That's plentiful.
Oh yeah, delicious elk water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It takes me back to Aotearoa in New Zealand. The water coming off the mountains was just like the purest, best water I've ever tasted. I didn't filter for like weeks at a time when I was in really remote areas. It was so good.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
People who wanted to do the Hexatrek, I wouldn't be worrying about resupply, language barrier, or water.
But you need to know the basics of French. But otherwise, no language barrier. Yeah. Like we found it really useful in the first week. We made a French friend, and she taught us left, right, and straight, and that was really helpful because, like, if you could learn the sentence "Where is the water?" Like in the town, and they're going to tell you it in French. So as long as you know left, right, and straight, then you can get to anywhere you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unreal. What were some of your guys' highlights? I'm sure there were countless amazing moments. Like if you had to pick maybe 3 specific sections or like GRs or like even just viewpoints, what would they be?
Mine was definitely the day we saw Mont Blanc.
Yeah, me too.
I wasn't actually expecting to see it. Were you expecting to see it? Yeah, I don't often read I don't technically ever read the map. So Scott just like we're just walking in the direction that Scott's taking me. And I did not know we were going to see Mont Blanc that day. I thought it was the next day. And so we kind of just like walked up a ridge and then all of a sudden it was there. And I was like, oh my God. it's well above anything else in its range.
Wow.
And it's like just very vertical. It was amazing. Yeah. It was definitely the highlight.
I'd say Mont Blanc would be my highlight too, but then close to that would be the Pyrenees. Yeah. I feel like that's really underrated. A lot of the tourists and hikers go straight to the French Alps and then kind of leave the Pyrenees out. Pyrenees are more wild. The terrain's a lot different. I think it's just better hiking all around, so that would come in close second. And
especially the central Pyrenees area.
Yeah. I really enjoyed stage 1 where people did it, the Vosges with the forest and all the castles. I thought that was really good hiking and something different.
Yeah, and a lot of people complained about all the rain in Vosges, but somehow Scott and I managed to walk through the whole thing without getting wet. So, usually
that's always a bonus.
Always a bonus.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Vosges was good. Also, really, really liked the marmots. We don't have marmots in Australia. Did you see them in America? They have them there, right?
So many.
I just loved them every time I saw them. We saw so many, but every time loved it.
I didn't actually know there were marmots in Europe. I thought it was just like an American thing for some reason.
No, I think they're everywhere except for here, probably. But then the other huge, huge highlight is the cheese in France. Seriously, like we've been trying to get French cheese here, and every time we buy it, it's like it's not the same. You have to. Are you a cheese lover?
Yeah, I am, especially on trail. Actually, like probably PCT onwards, I've been a cheese and salami dude, and in America, the cheese is not good. It's funny, we hike with a couple of Europeans in our trail family, and Lisa in particular complained about the cheese. Every single town stop. She's from Belgium, and obviously is quite spoiled, spoiled back home, and so that was pretty funny. Yeah. But yes, I do love cheese, especially on trail. So that would be right down my alley.
You're being for a treat then?
Oh, so good. But just every single state has its own specific cheese that it's making. It's like you walk into 20 different states. And so I don't know how, like in Australia, we have tasty cheese. And like, what is tasty cheese? Who knows? But there's so many different, and it all tastes completely different. And it was amazing. Our favourite was from the Alps. So luckily we were in that area for a while. So we got to eat our favourite for a long time.
That's cool. But then unfortunately you're spoiled and then you got to come home and you don't have access to all that good stuff.
No, I've been chasing that favourite cheese.
I'm kind of worried because I'm doing the Camino de Santiago starting in southern France in June. And so obviously we crossed the Pyrenees very close to the beginning of the trail. And I feel like I'm just going to be in those mountains and not want to leave. And I would just want to take a right turn and take the high route to the ocean or something.
It'll be hard for you to resist, isn't it? You're so close, you're looking at them.
You intersect. You intersect like 4 days from the end or something.
You'll just be looking at. You can see the whole Pyrenees.
Pretty much at the start. May as well start the Hexatrek.
Yeah, jeez, god damn it. I'm really looking forward to the pilgrimage actually, but I think post that hike, the Hexatrek is just going to be at the forefront of my mind. But we'll see.
We ended up walking.
See when I can make it happen.
Yeah.
We ended up walking the Camino for a little part of the end. There was so much snow in the Pyrenees. There was a guy who was walking in one day ahead of us, and we were supposed to be meeting up. And then he ended up getting off trail because he slept around, it was over 2,000 meters somewhere, and his tent flooded, and then the water froze. And so he had frozen shoes. He couldn't put his shoes on. His phone was frozen. He couldn't use his phone. And so there was this whole thing, and we were like, maybe we shouldn't be up so high anymore. And so, we spent some time on the Camino, which was very, very different to the rest of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's not a wilderness hike whatsoever, is it?
Yeah.
You guys have done a lot of adventure together. I'm interested to know what the dynamic is as a couple on trail, hiking 3,000 kilometers across France. Do you guys, I'm sure it's amazing at times. I'm sure it's challenging at times as well. I haven't done too much long distance hiking with my partner, but I feel like if we walked for months and months on end together, there'd be some challenging moments. How do you guys find the experience overall?
Dreadful. Nah.
Wouldn't recommend.
Nah, it all works out really well. 99% of the time we're good. We're super chill, aren't we? Just, I don't know, we kind of click.
Well, don't argue at all.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think we have our things that we like to do. Like, I really like to set up the tent, and I don't like when Scott's in my way. So he knows, like, when we get to the tent, just leave his bag there and I'll set up his bed, because it's much easier if I just do it, and I like doing that.
People think I'm lazy, but I've actually been told.
Yeah, but I just like doing it.
You just go sit down and Lauren does everything.
If we're bickering, it's because one of us is hungry. And so it's like, you just have some food and you're good to go.
We've spent that long together in a tent, like obviously 7 months on the bike in a tent, 6 months hiking in a tent, and then everything in between that we've done. It just works. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's no big issues really.
No.
If it didn't work, I feel like you guys would have probably given up a long time ago to do it.
Yeah,
doing all these big
that's
trips.
how you find out if you can spend 1 week with your partner in a tent.
Then you're set for life.
You're safe.
Absolutely. Do you guys have a very similar pace then, and a very similar hiking style?
Yeah.
So you kind of like always next to each other?
Yeah. Yeah. We move at the same speed.
I like to take more photos, and sometimes it's like, you just like stop taking photos. But how can you when it's so beautiful?
Yeah, I'm probably not as patient as Lauren. She likes to talk to the camera or take photos or look at some animals. Or I've got to go. I just kind of put my head down a little bit, so I've got to adjust.
You've got the map in front of you, and you're going.
Probably be better at that, but we do hike at the same pace, the same kind of fitness levels. Yeah. Same on the bike. We're always happy to do the same.
Yeah, because I was tucked in behind him, was just drafting him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sort of.
There's no real.
You guys obviously you do post quite a bit of content from these trips. Do you guys love content creation? Is that a big part of the experience for you guys out there? Is sharing it online? Because for me, it's a huge part of it, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I really liked making the daily vlogs for the Hexatrek. Not many people watch them, but I love watching them back now. So I'm really happy that I did. Like, sometimes you're really tired. I'm sure you know. You're like so tired. You don't want to make videos in that moment. Yeah. But I'm really happy that I did, because sometimes now, or when your phone gives you like past photos, and so you just get to watch the views, and how cool was that? And so like every day of the trip, we can be like, on this day I did that. That's really cool. And for the bike trip, I actually kept a diary, and so it was kind of like that, but just like on Instagram for the for the Hexatrek.
It's more a memories thing now, isn't it? Yeah. To be honest, we kind of wanted to get something out of content creation back when we started 3-4 years ago, whenever it was, but nothing really worked out that way. So it's still a hobby, but it's kind of not at the front of our mind these days. It's more for us.
We came back with like terabytes worth of footage from the bike trip, like 200 days. We didn't not film a day. Every single day has film.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's like drone camera and GoPro, and our phones. And so there's a lot of footage that the project itself is very overwhelming. And so we've only done like a really small chunk of actually releasing YouTube. And then we went to the Hexatrek. And so it's like, we're still in the process of getting those videos out. But it'd be really cool to watch it back now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's more for us now. No one watches it, to be honest.
No, go to our YouTube. Watch it.
Yeah.
I watch it.
Sure. Content creation's really blown up the last few years.
Yeah.
So when we first got into it, mainly 2018, it wasn't as popular.
Yeah.
So now it's a bit oversaturated. So the love for it's dipped a bit, to be honest, in our opinion anyway.
No, it's just because we're not all about trends.
Well, it's crazy these days. Like the PCTC has obviously just started, and there's about 600 people already daily vlogging on the trail.
Yeah, so
it's pretty cool. Like I'm enjoying following a few people, but you're definitely right. It's very saturated. Yeah. But for me, it's the best part of creating is to be able to look back at
100%.
At all the trips I've done and documenting things so so intensely, like daily vlogging. It just kind of forces me to film more and to craft a bit of a story of each day. And every time I watch back my vlogs so much, probably half of my views are just me, and it just teleports me back. And it's like all those little moments you forget about, when you're years later. But if you see a picture or a video or a voiceover that you made when you were doing it, or when it was just after the trail. It can teleport you back to those moments that you just wouldn't remember otherwise, and it's just the coolest thing. It's like the best gift you can give yourself, I think, when you're doing these incredible
You're also
adventures.
very good at storytelling.
I think someone told me that it's kept in my mind for a while is you'll never remember the exact details of the days and everything that you did, but you'll always remember how you felt at that time. So I think that kind of like resembles with me a lot. Like I don't remember every specific day or where we went the whole time, but I remember how I felt, and that's what makes it important.
You remember that emotion when you're biting into the best cheese in the world.
Yeah, the first time you have a decent cheese, the first time you see Mont Blanc, just whatever it is in life, you always remember how you felt rather than exactly everything you did.
We also do use YouTube a lot to get information about places. And so we will make a video about the Hexatrek, like just as Australians, what our experience was, because there's lots of like visa stuff and how you should walk the stages and that kind of thing. So
you do need a visa.
And we are getting lots of questions now on Instagram for people trying to hike it this year. And so I think we will do a video on next trip. But otherwise, we're trying to get up our bike videos.
I'm looking forward to that video. And I think when you post that YouTube video, a guide to the Hexatrek, that's my sign to hike it.
Yes, it is.
It's going out tomorrow.
You will seriously love it.
Oh, God.
There's a French guy that we're with. He did the Hexatrek the year before we did, and he's just completed the Tiora in New Zealand. And I think 3/4 of the way in New Zealand, he messaged us and said, I should not have started on the Hexatrek.
Really?
How good it was. But I think when he got more into the South Island, he realised how perfect
he wasn't fully.
Well, that's the thing about TA is the North and South Islands are such a different experience.
Yeah.
The North is maybe like a 5 out of 10, and the South is like a 10 out of 10. It's so radically different.
Yeah.
I feel that way a bit about the PCT. Like, I can't imagine another trail living up to that. Maybe the Hexatrek will. I don't know. But the PCT was just the most beautiful thing in the world,
Yeah.
But a big part of your journey would have been the people you met. You walked with some people.
100%.
So
the landscapes were incredible. The trail quality and the trail community was incredible. But the people, definitely a big highlight. Which, as someone who typically walks solo for most of the treks I had done prior to the PCT, it was super different. But it's like how you're talking about. You remember those feelings. It's like I kind of on the PCT. I remember the people and the moments with the people more than the landscapes and the big days and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually currently in the process of editing a film of my PCT journey. I've been working on it for a long, long time, but I'm super excited to put it out. But everything. The whole story I'm telling, it's just the people, it's the focus of everything. It's not this epic view that I saw, that's a part of it, sure. But the people were obviously such a major part of the experience. And I'm actually hoping to catch up with a few of our trail family in Europe, because most of our trail family, 3 of them were from Europe. So about half. Lisa in Belgium, Patrick in Slovakia, and Chris in Denmark. So
nice.
Hopefully we can cross paths with those guys when we go over, which would be pretty cool.
We actually I have a hyperlight bag and Scott has Palante, and so he ran up to us. He's like, "Oh, you have American bags? Are you guys American?" And we're like, "Oh no." He's like, he just got back from the PCT, and their whole trail family had decided to meet for that GR in France, and so it was like 10 of them from the PCT all hiking the GR. I was like, "That's super fun."
You just have that bond
so
forever,
cool.
don't you?
Yeah, it's amazing.
You do. You don't spend that much time with anyone in regular life. If you have a trail family that hikes, that thru hikes an entire trail together, and you don't go through those super challenging sort of experiences with many people in everyday life either. So it bonds you forever, that's for sure.
It does.
What's next for you guys? You got some big ideas, some big plans? The US, TA, bikepacking.
Always in the back of our mind, but probably the next big thing would be cycling Japan and maybe Taiwan, and cycling Norway and the Baltics probably.
Okay.
Somewhere in the adventure.
Yeah. So that would be nice.
There's a lot to do, Cam, you know it.
Yes.
It's never ending.
And the list is always changing.
Yeah, the list changes.
The list is always growing and changing, especially the more people you meet. Like after this conversation, the Hexatrek is now probably number 1 on my list. And I talked to Jen last week, and the Great Himalayan Trail was number 1, and it's just going to switch and change. And I like the CDTs very high up.
You get the Triple Crown.
Yeah. There's just endless adventure. What about a thru hike? What's top of the thru hiking list for you then?
What's the one called in the Denaria or Bosnia?
There's one in the Balkans. I can't remember exactly.
It's new as well. It came out last year. It's called the Great Balkans.
Yeah, somewhere over in Eastern Europe there's one. But maybe
obviously it's in Europe.
Cool. The TA is probably up there, I think. It's only a 3-hour flight from here, so...
Yeah, the TA is so close to home.
Yeah, that's probably the next one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Time will tell.
Maybe we'll just walk one half, the 10 out of 10 side. Yeah.
If you only have time for one half, the South Island is incredible. Yeah, it's so good. The North is just road walking for days, and you don't have a bike to get through it fast.
Yes. That's what you can expect from stage 4 on the Hexatrek as well, road walking.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was one thing I wanted to say about the Hexatrek as well is the trail angels or that kind of thing. That's absolutely not a thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring it in. And so there's like this document that you can go to on Discord. There's people that have like registered their phone numbers. But almost like 50% of them didn't have phone numbers. They only had Instagrams, but then they didn't follow you back, so you couldn't actually message them. So it was like this, it's very disconnected. So you can't really, Some of them were placed really well, that there was no campground or you couldn't wild camp or that kind of thing, that you could go to their house, but then you just never had them. So it was really hard to get them.
Basically non-existent.
Yeah, but like, I'm sure it's going to get better. But for our year, that wasn't a thing.
Not that it matters.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like I think Te Aroa is finally getting to the stage now. I think it's 15 years old or something.
Yeah.
Where there's a bit of a trail angel network, and the trails known enough that Far Out's pumping, and they've got their own app as well, and so it's a lot easier to sort of navigate. And then there's more and more people hiking every year, so it's sort of becoming more like one of the Triple Crown trails. And it sounds like Hexatrek's definitely on that path.
Established, but right. Maybe the Hexatrek's then.
Yeah, it is. Sure.
Yeah, well, Te Aroa was the same thing. It was just like an effort from, I don't think, any organization or government. It was just like, and they just joined a bunch of trails together, and that's why there's a lot of road walking, because that's the only way to join trails. And they've just slowly improved it over the years to include more actual trail, because there's a lot of farm walking as well on TA, just private property that have let people pass through on the trail and stuff like that. Whereas like a trail like the PCT, there's maybe 5 kilometers of road out of 4,000. It's crazy. It's so just mind blowing.
I think what we have is the PCT is basically a red carpet compared to the Hexatrek. So that's like it's all well looked after, graded.
It's insanely well graded.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, the PCT is just it's a highway. Like it just switchbacks everywhere. Really smooth trail. Never technical. And TA is the opposite as well. Sounds like from what I've heard, the AT is a lot harder as well.
The Hexatrek was like the direction is somewhere up there. Just like find your way up. And there's like.
I love that. That sounds so good. That sounds incredible.
Good. The other fun thing about the Pyrenees and the Alps was their cows and horses live in the mountains for the summertime, and so they're just like wandering about. But they are protected by those big Pyrenees mountain dogs, who are really, really big bears. They can actually be really, really scary. And we found out that they have really short sight, or long sight, and so they can't see you until you're really close. So they think that you're an enemy until you're very, very close. And so you have to just like, it's barking and like it's going to eat you, but you just have to hold like your paws close and just pretend like they're not going to eat you. And then they're like, oh, okay, you're a human. That's okay. So that's probably the scary part about the mountain part. I thought it was good anyway. But it was nice walking through the cows and the horses. It was beautiful. And not something you often see here in Australia.
That's incredible. Well, thanks so much, guys, for joining me tonight. I know it's pretty late for you guys now over on the East Coast. But I really appreciate the time. And
anytime. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hopefully you've introduced a bunch of people to the Hexatrek, and I'm sure you guys are happy to answer questions for people as well. Where can people find you on socials?
Lauren and Scott on YouTube and Instagram. Just message us whenever. We're pretty, frequently on there, answering a lot of questions.
Yeah, we're going to have this great video about what to expect from the Hexatrek up to.
Yeah. Well, subscribe. It's coming.
Yeah, subscribe.
And the rest of your bikepacking journey is coming too.
Yeah, it's on its way.
It's halfway through. Incredible. Well, I'll leave those links in the description of the pod so you guys can go check them out, send them some love, ask them some questions, and maybe I'll see some of our listeners on the Hexatrek next year. or the year after, I'm not sure.
Oh, next year. Maybe next year, sure.
We'll see. Great to chat, guys.
Thanks, big man.
Thank you.
If you guys enjoyed this episode of Life Outside Podcast, make sure to follow us wherever you're listening and leave us a 5-star rating. Really appreciate it. Catch you in the next one. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.